Hello, it's McEdam here, and today we're going to be talking about Pokemon movies. Hooray! Now, Pokemon is actually the first franchise that I got into when I was very young. It was like the first thing I was obsessed with, and the games have. I grew up with the first 4 generations. Because the games, they come in generations. They come in like 2. So you've got like red and blue. And then you've got silver and gold. And then you've got... So it comes in generations. And I grew up with the first 4 generations. And then I sort of like distanced myself away from it. So I haven't been playing Pokemon myself for years. But I decided to watch this movie, Pokemon Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution, which is on Netflix, and it's a remake of the first movie. Now, let me backtrack a bit. Pokemon is a game franchise that comes from Nintendo, from Japan, by Game Freak, which is a part of Nintendo, and they've been making the game since 1997, I believe, but it wasn't released here in the UK until 1999, which is odd because we actually had the anime show, the show that made it really big, in 1998, a year before, and so we got the game the same year as we got the Pokemon the first movie, which came out in 1999. And Pokemon the first movie, as a kid, when I was growing up as a kid, it was my favourite film. Sure, the script was terrible. I mean, when you're younger, you don't really think about like plotting and stuff like that. The show itself was poorly written, cheesy, just all around terrible. But as a kid, I did really enjoy it, and like I just said, the Pokemon, the first movie, which deals with a big villain of the series, Mewtwo, it was my favourite movie during that time. Because despite it being a silly kids film about cute little creatures, there was a lot of serious moments as well. Maybe not well-written serious moments, but there were some pretty dark moments as well that focused on. So this movie that came out in 2019, this film that we're talking about today is actually a remake of the first movie. And when I say remake, I mean remake. As in, it's got the same script, it's got the same look, using like similar like character designs and backgrounds and stuff, only obviously now it's been modernized and we've got, instead of 2D animation, which was the style of it in the 90s and the early 2000s, it's now like a 3D animation. It's sort of like Pixar or DreamWorks, that kind of feel to it. So plot-wise, it is exactly the same from the first movie, which is really took me back. So yeah, let's delve into the story. So we start off with basically the creation of Mewtwo. Now Mewtwo is a clone Pokemon who can speak, and he has like thoughts of his own, which is unlike any other Pokemon, which are basically just like animals. And so he basically discovers he's a clone and he's been created by humans, and he kind of has like a complex about like why was he made, why he was created. So he destroys the people who made him, and he starts working for this guy called Giovanni at the start of it, who basically explains that he was made by humans to be controlled by humans, and that's what Pokemon are for and stuff. And so Mewtwo does work with him to begin with, but then later betrays him as well. And then That's sort of like the pre-credit scene, the cold opener to our story. It really does a great job of setting up Mewtwo as a villain. It probably doesn't make any like a sense because he kind of, I mean, written wise, it's terribly written because you've conflicted between him going, right, who am I? Why was I created? But yet he's the one who killed his creators. So there's a bit of hypocritism going on in the script there. Because if he really wanted to know, he could have just left those guys live and asked them why he was created. But there you go. So, you know, but Mewtwo is just what a really cool design. He's got like his bony like chest, and then he's got like his big chunky legs, and that voice that goes with it. That is such an iconic voice. I don't think it's from the original guy who voiced him in the first movie. It's the guy I think who voiced him in the sequel, which I can't remember the name of, but the first movie had like a string of sequels, and one of them was like a straight sequel with Mewtwo returning. But I digress. And so our story then kicks off to our main protagonists. Ash Ketchum, with his Pokemon Pikachu. You got Misty, a water-loving creature person, and everybody's favourite perv, Brock. Now, I think a lot of people have talked about these characters and how they're not very well written. How Ash always seems to be always like the weakest character, and how Misty and Brock are just following him, and none of the three have any personality other than the fact that they get along with each other, and Brock is a massive pervert. But I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up with them. I mean, nostalgia is a huge factor for this film, and so, you know, I do resonate with Ash at the young age with him, and he was like a 10-year-old kid that wanted to become the best Pokemon player, and me, when I was younger, I was basically him. So as a kid I looked up to him, as an adult I looked down at him. Also, why do I look like Brock? That's not fair. Oh well. So another thing, a big thing to note as well, is the difference between animation here. And I really, really love the animation here. They got away with the 2D animation, which I am a bit sad of, because 2D animation in these days is very underappreciated, especially in big blockbuster movies, which you never see anymore, unless it's like a proper kids film. But, you know, so we've replaced it with this CGI version, and something about it just fits, it just works. The colours just seem much more vibrant, and because it's like CGI, the camera movements are very smooth and they feel very cinematic. It reminds me a lot, if you know your gaming, it reminds me a lot of the cutscenes from Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Now, as we're on the subject, let's movie studios, if you're listening, which I know you're not, do you know those movies you're making, like Detective Pikachu and the Sonic movies, where you have the CGI characters with live action actors? Stop doing that. Do it the way this movie does, and just have everything like a Pixar film, and everything just pops out and just looks gorgeous and looks like it's from a video game and not in a bad way. So just do that, please. If we have a video game cinematic universe, I want it to look like like this, like a Pixar film, not what they're doing with the big budget movies. Now this film, it was released in cinemas in Japan, but was released around the world on Netflix. So I don't know what that tells you about the budgetary or the state of the quality of the film, but it's just something to note. So yeah, movie studios do that. And so Ash, the one thing they changed from the original version, which kind of took me by surprise. In the original version, on both versions, they gotta get to this like island, and so what they have to do is that Ash, Misty, and Brock, they get on a boat, which are run by Team Rocket in disguise. Team Rocket are like the bad guys of the show, like our comic relief bad guys. And in the original version, they pretend to be Vikings, and it's just something that always sticks out in my mind. It's just how weird the Viking idea was. But here they took that out for them as basically just like running like this weird like sailor boat thing, and they're wearing like sailor uniform, which I found really strange for not being that strange, if that makes any sense. But I digress. So they go onto this island, and the atmosphere that was in the original version is still there, and I just love the look of this place with the gloomy dark purple lighting, and when you get into like the bigger room, it's like bright, not bright pink, but it's like a gloomy pink, and you got that white yellow beam coming from those stairs, those like a DNA spiral, which just looks so cool, and I'm so glad. It's literally like a spot on version from the original. So I am kind of realizing as I'm talking about this that a lot of the films the reason this film works for me is the nostalgic factor, which will not be part for anyone, but I digress. And so they are Ash and his other crew of people that have gotten to the island. They meet Mewtwo, a villain, and some of the scenes here are incredibly tense for a kids' film. Not well written. Let me be very strict on that. It's not well written. The characters basically state everything that's happening on screen, and the logistics of this world just don't make any sense. But it's just cool when you see like Mewtwo, and he's got like these like 3 fingers with like balls on him, and he like picks people up with like his like psychic powers, and how easy he can do it. It just sets him up as a really big, threatening villain. And for a kids' film, it's very well handled, I think. So you got then he takes them down like one by one, and he challenges them all to a battle, and they get easily beaten. And then when I found as a kid was like terrifying, and I don't think they realised how terrifying this is for a kids' film, is the bit where Mewtwo has this like this weird power where in the show people capture these Pokemon by these Pokeballs, and what it is that when you capture one, like nobody can take it away from you. Like that Pokemon is yours, and you raise it as basically like a pet. And it's like in the show, the Pokemon are allegory for pets, basically, like your cats and your dogs, and not like the characters connect to them as like their pets. And in what happens here is that Mewtwo, he makes his own like sort of like balls that can take other people's Pokemon, even if they're in their balls. And the fact that it's like he gets summons like so many at them, and you just see these people struggling to try and keep their animals basically safe, but they're like kidnapped in front of them. That's really horrifying if you think about it. Like think about it. Like I said, there's supposed to be allegories for animals. Now imagine you're a kid, right? And you're watching a film where basically you're seeing these kids that are like the same age as you, like 10, 9, and they are having their animals, their pets that they've loved, just forcefully taken away from them in front of their eyes, and they can do nothing. And it's like they have like they're protecting two, and then one of them gets taken, and they're like, no, and then the other one gets taken behind the back, and it's just like, bloody hell, that messed me up as a kid. It's just what? But it's really intense when it gets there, and it's just strange how for a very kids show, especially Pokemon as well. Pokemon is not known for its darker moments. I mean, the show did have darker moments, especially later on. There was one episode I remember where one of the Pokemon they call Bulbasaur, they believed that it was dead for a majority of an episode. I remember that one sticking out. So it does have dark moments, but very, very few and far between. And even in this film, there's like a nice resolution to it. Like it's not like they're gone forever. They do get them back later on, but it's just, you know, as a kid, you don't really know that, don't you? You watch it and you're just like, what are you doing? Give him back! But yeah, and then so Mewtwo takes all these Pokemon and clones them, and you get this cool battle of the clones and the originals kind of fighting. And I will admit, right, when I was younger, when I was a kid, when I was a stupid kid, this scene used to make me tear up. Especially when you see the two Pikachus and one of them is just slapping the other one across the face. And the real Pikachu, the one that our main character Ash, like his Pikachu, he's just not fighting, he's just taking it. And it's just really, you have the slow music and you see all the Pokemon like tiring out, and there's like this like speech by the side characters about how it doesn't matter if they're clones or not, they're all living things, why are they fighting? I mean, it does kind of break the whole idea of the show that, you know, it's about animals fighting other animals, that these people make them fight to the death. So it does completely ruin the concept of the show. But as a kid, you're not really caught up in the story. You're caught up in the emotions. And when that happens, especially that sad music that plays in the original version, it's something about it really sticks out in your memory. Now here, I haven't seen the original movie in ages. But here I think they've changed the music from I don't remember this version of the song, and I don't think this one works particularly well. I didn't tear up this time, so I've grown up. I am a man. Even though I did watch Pokemon by myself, so maybe I'm not that grown up, you know. And then you get Mewtwo then like throws like Ash away, and then he's saved by this creature called Mew. Now Mew is what Mewtwo was a clone of. The people at the start of the film were cloning Mewtwo to try and get Mew, but like there's like only one in the world, so they're extremely rare, so they decided to make Mewtwo as the most powerfulest Pokemon creature on the planet. And Mewtwo, he doesn't like that, so he and Mew start fighting, and the CGI battle is so cinematic, and the fight in it just works really well. However, I don't think there's a lot of in-depth analysis that you can really go into it. Maybe Mew is like the innocent, the idea of innocence, how it's like this sweet, and it even looks like a baby, and then like Mewtwo is like the grown-up adult. Like he was basically born as an adult, as a thinking creature that's constantly like complex and stuff. So maybe it's a battle of simplicity versus complexity. Maybe, I don't know if that works. Is that deep? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if that's like a theme that's going on. I mean, nothing else in the story plays to that, but you know, it's there if you wanna delve deep into Pokemon the first movie or Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution, depending on which version you watch. And then something really weird happens when these two creatures they shoot like a beam, and Ash tries to get him to stop, and he gets in the middle of it, and he gets turned into stone. And my God, this bit is so heartbreaking. Again, I didn't cry now, but when I was a kid watching this in the original Pokemon the first movie, man, I know I wasn't the only kid who was burst into tears at this moment, as literally it goes quiet. You don't hear any music apart from like the wind blowing in the background, and you hear Pikachu trying to wake up his owner basically, and there's nothing. And he uses because Pikachu, he can use like electric attacks, and in the original show it was like a running joke how he would electrocute Ash when he's not happy with him. And so he like trying to electrocute him to try and wake him up, and nothing happens. And literally, Pikachu starts tearing up with tears. And to see that poor, innocent creature, when I say innocent, it's a murdering electric mouse. But to see what kids consider an innocent creature in tears because its owner basically is dead, there's just something really heartbreaking about that. However, a great example of the script contradicting its emotional value is how it gets solved, because, you know, it's a kid film. They can't kill the main 10-year-old child, though I really wish they did, because everybody says that Ash is annoying, and it's true, but, you know. So what happens then is all the Pokemon start crying, the clones and the originals, and then somehow all the tears go into the body of this 10-year-old child. And yeah, it's never explained in the show. Nothing ever happens like this ever again, or happens before. So it's just convenient. It's shot very well. I mean, shot like animation shot. It's animated very well then, but there's no plot reasoning for it. But it's still heartwarming, and then like the Ash character comes back to life and gives his pet a hug, and it's really sweet and innocent. Now, what happens next, even back in the original version, pissed me off, and even now, watching it now, it's twice as annoying, as now I'm a grown up who can study art and stuff. Mewtwo basically decides that, right, maybe everybody deserves to live after all. And so he takes his and his clones to another island. But before he does that, what he does is he erases everybody, all the original Pokemon and the human characters. He erases their minds so they completely forget about Mewtwo. So basically, all like the morals of the story, if there were any, or anything to happen in the story, was for nothing, as none of our characters learn anything. Which you kind of have to do, because a big part of it in the second half, when you see the Pokemon and the clones fighting, is that it's like, why are we making these creatures fight? Everybody's a living thing, stop fighting. So you couldn't keep that. You couldn't keep doing the show as it is, with everybody like, oh yeah, let's battle our cute little animals, and have like, wait a minute, we realise that they're basically slaves that we forced to murder each other. So, you know, you couldn't keep both those ideologies. You're gonna have to sacrifice one. So to keep the show existing, they kind of did have to erase it. But man, can you imagine if they kept the memories, and this storyline would have delved in deeper? Would have really worked. I mean, it would have really worked. So that's Pokemon Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution. I mainly watched it just so I can have an excuse to talk about Pokemon, because, like I said, it was the biggest thing in my childhood, and it was my first franchise. It was my first thing I got into. So maybe I'll make some Pokemon videos later on if anyone's interested in that. But as the film itself, the plot is absolutely terrible. Characters are absolutely terrible. Apart from Mewtwo. Mewtwo, I actually think is a really cool villain. How he's very complex and stuff. I don't think I've really delved too deep in this video. He basically is like, right, he realizes that he's a clone, and he doesn't want to work for the humans, and so he makes these clones to basically replace all the humans and all the real monsters. So basically he wants like a world of clones, and you do see it from his point of view, and the story does a good job at actually like taking you through his mindset, even if he does like very villainous things, like, you know, tried to murder all the people there. So apart from Mewtwo, nobody's very well written. However, this animation makes up for it with some brilliant designs. Obviously, you got the Pokemon designs, but with the added 3D animation and the color palette and the backgrounds and stuff, you mainly watch it for the appeal of it, if that makes any sense. And obviously the nostalgia factor is a huge factor for me. I did have a lot of fun basically going through a film I enjoyed as a kid watching it in a new way. So there you go. I don't think I got anything more to talk about it. So there you go. If you want to see me talk about Pokemon again, please let me know in the comments, descriptions, whatever. Because I tell you what, this video I actually did have a blast talking about Pokemon. I really enjoy the series. For anyone who's asking, my favourite gen is Gen 3. Some of my favourite Pokemons are Piplup, Luxio, yes, they're from Gen 4, Hunter, and Claydol. That's another one I like. So there you go. There's my 4 favourites. So there you go. I'll see you next time when I make a next video, which I don't know when that will be when this goes up. So there you go. Bye.